So, vegan.
The word itself brings a certain predisposed notion to mind. It really depends on the person whether it's positive or negative. Some of you probably picture a privileged LA socialite who has a super glamorous lifestyle, or a pretentious, condescending so-called environmentalist. Even though these archetypes do exist, I'm happy to say that the entire vegan community isn't like this. Most are pretty self-aware and promote discussions with others without being judgmental. After all, this is the most effective way to spread the message of veganism, through enlightening conversations with others and sharing facts without being antagonizing. For example, in these clips, vegans and non-vegans have a conversation where they find common ground and learn more about each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing for me. I think it's one of my weaknesses, actually. Like butter, salt, it's one of my weaknesses.
I love food. And I think my relationship with food actually deepened when I became vegan. I don't think I appreciated it as much as I did before I was vegan. My name is Aubrey Davis, and I have been vegetarian for 24 years and vegan for 13 years.
I believe that humans are the top of the food chain.
Is a human at the same level of equivalence as like a fish?
Right.
That's probably a big reason why I'm not vegan anymore.
Right.
Because I didn't see that I had to see myself at a moral equivalent of a fish. And it gets into moral questions like, why should we have a pet that's a dog rather than eat the dog? And I think the most important
I was a vegetarian for 2 years. I'm a meat eater now. I've been so for over 5 years.
Like, I don't even see, what is a food chain? You know what I'm saying? That's just some construct some guy made and put a little diagram and put us human beings on the top.
I was curious about what the average impression of veganism was, so I asked some of my fellow students what they thought of it.
My first impression of veganism was a positive one because I watched the movie Forks Over Knives, which talked about the nutritional benefits of veganism, as well as Food Inc., and just learning about how animals are, raised to be consumed, and how that in turn affects climate change and our earth. So I think it's generally a good thing.
So the first thing I think of when I think of vegans or veganism is definitely the environment, since it makes such a big impact on the environment, especially fossil fuel consumption. I also think of ethics, and I also think it's really hard, because that's why I have so much respect for people who do it, because it's definitely not easy, since almost everything we eat has dairy or animal products in it, and especially when our friends and family, their diet is so centered around it, so it can be a really hard thing to do. But I definitely think everyone should try to follow a plant-based diet, just because it's okay if you can't. It doesn't have to be 0 to 100, but even the smallest thing can make the biggest difference.
I think veganism and vegans are really cool, and I think it's a really good cause, and to, help with the environment and animals, and I've seen a lot of documentaries on it. I'm not vegan, but I would be open to being vegan.
I believe veganism is important because not only are there numerous health benefits on our bodies, but it is the #1 way that we can reduce our carbon footprint and lead a healthy, sustainable lifestyle so that we and future generations can continue living on this earth. Even if it's impossible or not feasible at the current moment to make the full switch to veganism, it's still important to buy vegan products as much as you can and support the industry so that the supply for veganism is known by companies and more products are produced so that vegans have more dietary options and more people can gradually make the switch.
I think people that are vegans have a lot of self-control, and I can't really imagine having that self-control to avoid a lot of food products like dairy, eggs, milk, cheese. All of these things are in a lot of my diet personally, and so it would be really hard to stop eating those things. But I think vegans do it for the environment, for animal cruelty, and I think that's like a very admirable thing, and it takes a lot of strength on their part, a lot of discipline, and yeah.
It's great that veganism has become more mainstream recently in the past few years, and there are more options in grocery stores for vegan alternatives, and also in restaurants. It's just a lot more awareness socially, the ethical reasons behind veganism, which is great because it does impact the environment in such a beneficial way. So it's amazing to see that many more people are choosing to be plant-based in the recent years.
Now I want to give 10 important facts about veganism that I believe highlight the benefits and tackle some misconceptions. To finish this off, I wanted to talk about my own journey. I became vegan 4 years ago when I watched the documentary Cowspiracy on Netflix. It opened my eyes to all of the environmental repercussions of eating meat and using animal products. Before being vegan, I had been vegetarian for 4 months, so the transition wasn't cold turkey. There's also plenty of resources that I used to help me transition. A difficult aspect was getting my parents on board. I'm Pakistani, so a lot of our cuisine is meat-based, and it wasn't typical in the Pakistani community for someone to be vegetarian, let alone vegan. So my parents' reaction was expected. Eventually, I won them over, and they came around when they saw how beneficial a plant-based lifestyle was. Soon, both my brother and sister became vegetarian, so we stopped cooking meat in the house entirely. Our household has completely transitioned, and now my parents proudly tell their own friends about the benefits of being vegetarian and vegan. Overall, I'm so glad I made the decision to go vegan. It helped me form a good relationship with food, and it made me become more aware of our environment. Remember, any change in your lifestyle, whether that be doing meatless Mondays or even just removing one meat or animal product from your life, is a major contribution, and the earth will thank you.